The 2026 FIFA World Cup meal at McDonald's is underway with one of 9 legendary cups in the lineup. Christian Pulisic, David Beckham, Lamine Yamal, Ronaldinho, Thierry Henry, Son Heung-min, Alphonso Davies, Santi Jimenez. And between the posts, it's Grimace. Get one of 9 collectible cups with a FIFA World Cup meal. At participating McDonald's for a limited time while supplies last. All rights reserved. 2026 McDonald's at FIFA World Cup 2026.
This episode is brought to you by Prime. What if you had one more chance with the one that got away?
Sam, you came home.
Based on the best-selling novel from Carly Fortune. Every Year After follows childhood friends Sam and Percy as they reunite in the dreamy, nostalgic lakeside town of Barry's Bay.
Love can be hard to find. So if you're lucky enough to find that person, never let go.
A second chance at first love. Every Year After, now streaming only on Prime.
Warning. This show contains material that some listeners may find troubling, including discussions of intense horror movie themes, explicit language, movie spoilers, and women speaking. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, horror fans. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Eleanor.
And welcome to Horror Sandbox, the podcast where we dig around in horror films and see what we can unearth.
That's right. And before we get started with today's movie, we are going to skip our usual coping chat and instead we're going to do our second ever announcement.
Yes, we are thrilled to announce that we have launched a Patreon. It's live today and you can support us at patreon.com/horrorsandbox. For $5 a month, you can get early access to all of our episodes without ads, including past episodes. And you'll get the ability to vote on certain future episodes that we'll record. So future movies that we'll do.
Yes, and we are so excited, so if you'd like to support us, please do so. Right now, we only have the one tier, which we are calling the Persistent Horrors tier. Eventually, we might expand to offer other tiers with different perks, but this is what we feel like we can manage right now. So check us out, and we hope you enjoy.
Yes. Okay, so Eleanor, what are we digging into today?
With Juneteenth coming up, we decided to dig into one of Jordan Peele's films from 2019, Us. The IMDb movie summary is, in order to get away from their busy lives, the Wilson family takes a vacation to Santa Cruz, California. The family is shocked to find out that the intruders look like them. This was written and directed by Jordan Peele. It is starring Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, and Elizabeth Moss. And we can't dig around in a horror sandbox without our trusty rusty tools. So Charlie, what is your Bloody Shovel Award for this one?
This movie is in my top 5. I love it so much. And the main reason is this movie is the perfect blend of funny and scary. I think it's the first horror movie I saw that really digs into that funny part. And I love it so much. So that is my Bloody Shovel.
That's a good one. The kids in this are hilarious.
They're so fun. And the dad too.
Yes, he's very funny. So I went with, kind of in a similar vein, I went with best tonal dissonance in a fight scene. Because what's happening on camera and what's playing in the music is so funny.
These are good ones. I'm excited. All right, well, let's get into it.
Okay, we open up with a quote that there are thousands of miles of tunnels beneath the continental United States that have been either abandoned subway systems or unused service routes, deserted mine shafts, and it says that many have no known purpose at all.
Yeah, so I love this opening. It's funny because I was watching this and I was like, wait, are all of my favorite movies, do they all involve tunnels or something underground? And most of them do. But I do just want to say really quickly that this quote is absolutely true. The US has so many tunnels under it. And I immediately thought of two other movies, Malignant, because Seattle has like a whole underground city that is built on top of. And there's a scene in Malignant that takes place down there. And then I hope one day we'll do Silent Hill because I want to talk about Centralia, Pennsylvania, because that's close to my home heart. But it is abandoned mine shafts that caught fire. They inspired the scene of Silent Hill. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, lots of creepy tunnels in the US.
Nice. We should visit some. I keep coming up with ideas for our horror road trip that we're going to do one day.
Oh my gosh, actually, it's so funny because we were thinking about taking my daughter to one near where we're at right now.
She's brave enough.
Yeah, I think so.
So we cut from that to an older TV news teaser and a commercial for Hands Across America. And the way it is introduced is it says what has 12 million eyes, 192 million teeth, and stretches from the Golden Gate Bridge to the Twin Towers. It's Hands Across America, 1986, which that is a terrifying way to put whatever the heck this is.
It is. It is really kind of a weird way to put it. I will say, I'm going to talk about this more at the end, but this specific commercial isn't real, but the fundraiser was. So I will talk about that.
I remember seeing this movie when it first came out, and I remember seeing like an interview or something with Jordan Peele where he talked about as a kid being kind of scared of this, if I'm remembering that correctly. I'm not sure if I am. I'm sure you'll go into it at the end. But I remember at the time just being like, I don't understand why a bunch of people holding hands would be terrifying. And then this movie opens with what has 12 million eyes, 192 million teeth. Like, oh, okay. No, that's terrifying. I get it. I was wrong, Jordan Peele. I am sorry.
That is so funny. There's so many, actually. I'm excited to talk about this. There's a lot of things in this movie that are exactly just there because he's afraid of them. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Oh my God. If you and I made a movie about things that we're afraid of.
Ketchup.
We've never talked about this on recording, but Charlie is terrified of ketchup.
I hate it so much.
When I was sitting at the table while you guys were getting your food, the last time we were together, and your daughter had fries, I was like, do you want ketchup? And then I was like, did you know your mommy is really scared of ketchup? And she just glared at me.
Oh, she's aware. She's aware. Because my significant other always says like, oh, touch her with a ketchup, touch her with a ketchup. And I'm like, don't you dare. Like, it's the only time I get really mean with her because I can't handle it.
It's so funny. We should probably like at some point explore this. Will you ask your therapist why you're afraid of ketchup?
My theory at this point is all of the cheeseburgers I was forced to eat as a young child that were ordered with ketchup, and then the ketchup was just scraped off of it, but the ketchup's taste, it's still there. It's the worst. And I feel like that moment has ruined me.
But if it was just going to be a horror movie of my fears, I think it would be if there's a way you can be claustrophobic and really up high. So like stuck inside something that's also really, like really far up somehow.
I'm realizing that my perfect horror movie would be ketchup, balloons, and crocodiles on an airplane.
Ketchup-filled balloons. Speaking of ketchup, we then cut to a boardwalk in Santa Cruz in 1986. We have parents and young Addie. They are playing carnival games for Addie's birthday, and she wins a Michael Jackson Thriller shirt. The parents then argue about whether or not it was a good idea to get her this shirt because she had nightmares from the video, and she is eating a candied apple while she watches them fight. Have you ever had a candy apple? I truly don't get the appeal.
I will admit, I don't think I've ever had a candy apple like the ones that are covered in that red sugar like crunchy coat. I avoided them for the vast majority of my life because they just looked like messy and like they would hurt my teeth. But I had a spiritual awakening after doing a cider trot. I know. Spiritual awakening via apple. I was doing a cider trot in October, and at the end they handed out these like caramel covered apples, and I ate one, and my God, it was so freaking good. So now, like in October, I just gorged myself on like caramel and chocolate covered apples, but not the candy covered ones.
You're like, if this is what was on that tree in the garden, then Eve deserves to be cleared of all charges.
Oh, I think she deserves that anyway, but yes.
Yes, facts.
I would absolutely have eaten that apple, Eve. So I feel I do.
So she's watching the carnival rides as her parents keep arguing, and then we can kind of feel the tension just building a little bit. The mom tells the dad that there's a film happening, and it involves a carousel, and he should find out if they're hiring extras. And so are we supposed to get the idea that the dad is like either out of work or he is an actor, or what's the deal?
I get the vibe that the dad's like just generally being portrayed as kind of like a deadbeat. Because I think, isn't there some references here about him drinking too much too? And then I think he is out of work is a vibe I was getting.
Yeah. And I couldn't tell if that was genuinely they're just like the parents aren't just not happy together, so they're fighting about everything, or if there's like serious underlying problems.
Well, it does seem like the parents aren't happy together as well. So, and they definitely butt heads over a lot of things, but not sure.
So then the dad goes to play whack-a-mole. The mother has to go to the bathroom, so Addie stays with her dad. We see thunders. Well, you can't see thunder, but you hear thunder start, and the audio also shifts tone, so we know something is about to happen. She sees a man with long hair, and he's holding up a sign that says Jeremiah 11:11. She wanders away and passes people playing rock, paper, scissors, and then she goes down some dark stairs and heads to a beach while she's watching the storm. And I'm guessing we're going to talk about Jeremiah 11:11 probably later, right?
Yes, we are. We'll talk about that and the number 11, which pops off a lot in this movie. But also, it just clicked for me that the people are playing rock, paper, scissors, and the tethered come back with scissors.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I just made that connection right now. How cool. Okay.
That is cool. So Addie comes to a mirror maze, and it's called the Shaman's Vision Quest, and it says you can come in to find yourself. There's a recording of a voice coming from the mirror maze, and it's talking about water and mountains and valleys. It almost sounds like it's going to be a Bible verse, but it becomes clear that it's referencing Native American folklore about creation. Addie drops her candy apple and she enters. So then she wanders through a room that is kind of made up to look like a forest, and then this mechanical owl just pops out and scares the crap out of her as the narrator is talking about like a figure that he says is a spider woman. And then she finds some mirrors, and there's a power surge, and everything goes suddenly dark. She sees an exit sign and heads for it, only to crash into a mirror. She then starts to whistle Itsy Bitsy Spider to calm herself as she tries to find an exit. So we've got spiders popping up again.
Yeah, spiders are everywhere in this movie, and they're a fun little thing to talk about at the end as well.
Excellent. Suddenly, she realizes that her whistles are being echoed back to her, and it's clear that it's not just that empty room causing the sound. She backs into a mirror, but it's not a mirror. It's a person who looks almost exactly like her, but just slightly off. And when she turns around, the mirror version of herself does not turn around. And then we watch Addie open her mouth in wide horror. It's a really, really incredible scene. It's very disturbing. And then suddenly the camera cuts to a close-up of the eye of a white bunny. And here we have bunnies popping up in horror movies some more.
Yeah, so many bunnies. Caveat and the reference to, I forget how you say his name.
Jan Schwankmeyer.
Yeah, with the reference to Jan Schwankmeyer and Alice, which I'm so glad we did that because that sent me down a literal Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole that we'll talk about later. Yeah.
Excellent. And then we get the opening credits, and we have this terrifying chanting. I think it's kids chanting in a foreign language, and it's really creepy sounding.
Yes. So it's funny. I was doing notes for this movie late last night, like 1 a.m., and I put the song on to listen to it again, and I got full body chills. I was like, nope, I can't listen to this song in the dark.
Oh, no. It'll keep you up.
Yeah. Oh, and I was up. But I will say I'm going to talk a lot about the music at the end of this episode, but this song was specifically made up for this movie.
Do you know what? That makes me feel so much better because that music is really terrifying. And I think what's making it so scary is I was trying to imagine the organic situation in which that noise would be coming from children, and I was uncomfortable with all of it.
Oh, yeah. No, there's literally nothing organic about that song. I'm excited to talk about it.
Sweet. So then the camera pans out some more and we see lots of bunnies. They are all in individual cages. They look like lab bunnies, and they are in the back of a room that has a bunch of school desks in it, and it looks kind of like a classroom. And then that scene ends and we cut to much more upbeat, chill music in the present day, and we have a family driving down a scenic wooded road. This is Addie as a grown-up, and she's with her husband and her 2 kids. Everyone is asleep, and the dad, Gabe, screams, "We made it!" as they pull up to the house so he can wake everyone up. Very dad energy, very dad thing to do. And they unpack their car, and they are at their summer home. The family eats takeout around a table, and the daughter, Zora, says that she doesn't want to do track and field anymore. And the dad says she should stay in so she can get in the Olympics, and she kind of waves that off. And then she asks if she can drive while they're up there, and her mom says no. The brother, his name is Jason, is wearing a Jaws t-shirt and a mask. I think it's Chewbacca or Planet of the Apes. It was kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, so it's Chewbacca. I found that it is confirmed to be Chewbacca, but you know what's interesting? You know what other Jason in the horror franchise famously wears a mask? Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th.
I did not even
Yeah.
make that connection.
Yep, no, it's definitely not a coincidence. It's a nod to the Friday the 13th series, so.
The dad tells Zora that she should practice running on the beach while they're there since it's harder to run on the beach. And then Addie asks which beach, and the dad says Santa Cruz, and he said that their friends will be there, so he wants to go to the beach to hang out with them. Jason plays with this magic trick, like a ring that he had left there the previous year. He's wearing it on his hand and trying to get it to go off. I think it's supposed to produce sparks. He keeps messing with it, and then he says, "It's kind of bullshit." And his dad chides him for cursing, while Addie has a flashback about being in therapy for PTSD as a child. So we see her kind of in like the play area while her parents are talking to the therapist, and she is playing with toy animals in, guess what? A sandbox.
Yay, I love this. Our first naturally appearing horror sandbox.
Yes. And as the therapist talks to the parents, Addie's dad seems unconvinced that she actually went through any trauma, while the mom insists that they don't actually know what happened and she was lost, and obviously something happened that stressed her out because she's no longer speaking. The therapist says to just keep encouraging her to write and draw and dance so that they can learn her story. And Addie is just kind of watching and listening to all of this. It then cuts back to Addie in the present day. She is staring at a toy spider on a coffee table as a real spider crawls out from it.
Yeah, we'll dig into this more at the end, but duality is a huge thing in this movie. Obviously with the doppelgangers, that's not like a surprise, but this is one of the like first obvious duality things we see where a real spider is walking past a plastic toy spider. So the duality of real versus fake.
Oh, interesting. And who's who?
Well, that's the question.
Gabe comes into the room and he's kind of annoyed that Addie doesn't want to go to the beach and would prefer to stay at the beach house and enjoy the little quieter shores that are closer. And Gabe says, well, that's not a real beach. We need to go to one that has all the beach games and rides and stuff. And Addie is like, ew, gross, crowds, weirdos. No, thank you. And I am 100% on her side. I'm assuming you've been to these, boardwalk type beaches.
I have. Yeah, and they're not my jam. I mean, first off, I'm not a beach gal in general. I'd much rather go somewhere cold in the mountains without sand. I hate the water. I hate the sand. I hate the heat. So, but yes, and then the boardwalks, all the little shops are kind of cheesy. None of the food's ever good. The rides are suspect at best. It's just not for me. I assume you feel the same way.
It's also not my thing. I mean, I've taken my kids to one just so they experience it. If it has to be a beach, I want it to be a quiet one. No crowds, no weirdos, and no games. So I'm with Addie on this.
I agree.
Gabe guilt trips her a little bit and says that Jason really wants to go and he's going to be sad if they don't get to. So Addie agrees and just says, okay, we have to leave before dark. The next scene, Addie stops in Zora's room and asks where Jason is. She doesn't know, so Addie keeps looking, and she goes into the basement. It has a that classic ballet setup where it's a wall that's covered in mirrors and then a rail along it so you can balance and watch yourself in your form while you do so. Meanwhile, Zora is looking at herself in a bathroom mirror, and we watch Jason creep out of a cabinet and scare her. And then he runs into a hall closet and he uses a toy ambulance to prop open the door. And this is just like classic sibling stuff. Meanwhile, Addie is still in the basement. She's looking at boxes of old things and she finds a small white rabbit stuffy. And here we go. More rabbit references.
So many rabbits.
It's because of how they breed.
I did have that thought.
They get into everything, including horror movies.
Yes.
Addie finds an old picture of herself dancing, and then she has a memory or a vision of herself dancing in, it's either that room that she's in right now or a very similar one. We watch Zora walk by the closet door where Jason is hiding, and she kicks the toy out of the way, which locks Jason in the closet. Addie's reflection of her when she's younger kind of turns and looks back at Addie and stares at her, which troubles her. And then suddenly we hear Jason pounding on the closet door. So Addie goes to let him out and then reminds him, like, this is why you can't play in the closet because you can get locked in here. And then as she's talking, you can see that the closet is used for storage of like beach games, board games, that type of stuff. And there's one that you can see called Guess Who? And that's definitely intentional, right?
So it's funny. I looked this up. I looked a lot of things up and I found an interview with Jordan Peele. And this is a direct quote from him. He says, "Everything in this movie was deliberate. That is one thing I can guarantee you, unless you don't like something. And that was a complete accident." So it probably was deliberate.
I love that. I love how, I mean, lots of directors do this, but in horror, I'm coming to notice it a lot, is there's a deliberate decision to make something a little vague because the interpretation of the viewer and the audience is kind of part of that subjective bit of horror, that this is scary to this person because, and leaving that open for the viewer, I think, is something that directors think about a lot. And so the fact that he's like, oh yeah, it was totally intentional, unless you hated it, that's hilarious.
Yeah. I know, it's so funny. And I agree. That's one of the things I love about horror. And I think the good movies are the ones that leave a little bit open for interpretation because then your brain makes it scarier. So yeah, I think it's
Oh
cool.
yeah. The family hears some crazy loud beeping and commotion outside, and they go out to the shore and they see their dad with a new to him speedboat. And this is a used speedboat and he's going nuts with it, just screaming and just like pure dad joy about his new toy. The boat is called the Crawdaddy and it's not in the best condition and it drifts to the left when steering straight and you sometimes have to like kick the motor housing to get it to start, but he's totally thrilled with it.
Oh my gosh. And this scene reminded me so much. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but my first high school job, I worked at like a boat rental and we rented out kayaks, canoes, and these crappy motorboats. And this whole scene where you have to hit it just right 3 times to get it to turn on, that's so, every motor we had, each one had its own little like thing. And I spent hours trying to fix these motors. I couldn't tell you a thing about motors, but I do know like exactly where you have to hit it or what little switch you got to move to make it work. And it's just, I hate motorboats.
Yeah, what is that? It's the same with a pool, right? It's better to have a friend with a boat or a friend with a pool than to actually have a boat or have a pool.
100%. Yes. Whenever people would rent them out, I would be like, are you sure? Are you sure you don't want something you can manually like move yourself? Because I guarantee you're getting stuck in the middle of the bay. But
You weren't exactly winning salesman of the year, were you?
no, but I was also a child, so I didn't care.
Valid. So later, the family is back in their car and they're heading to the beach. Zora is on her phone and informs the family that the government puts fluoride in the water to control everybody's minds. And the parents are not thrilled. And I'm just like, man, what in the Alex Jones is this? Like, why Zora?
I know. I had that thought too, but when did they started putting fluoride in the water when I was a little kid.
1945.
Wait, they started this in 1945?
Yes. How old are you, Charlie?
Not that old.
Meanwhile, Jason is still messing with his magic triggering, which isn't working. Zora suggests that he just tell them all what it's supposed to look like so they can picture it. He responds by suggesting that she kiss his anus. And then the parents react and he's like, well, that's not fair. This isn't a curse word. And the mom does what I sometimes do when my kids are being insane, and I just put on music. So she puts on some music and they start playing the song I've Got Five on it, and they all start slowly singing it all together. In my family, this would be an emo song, but this is what they're playing.
My family would unfortunately probably be Taylor Swift, but I would much prefer it be an emo song.
So they slowly all start singing it together. Addie shows Jason how to snap to the rhythm, and then they pull around a curve and you can see the beach, and we see Addie getting nervous. She has a flashback to her as a kid that day on the beach in the back of the car while it storms, and her parents are fighting about what happened to her. So this is after the incident and she's been reunited, but the parents are fighting because that's all they do in her memories. It cuts back to the present day and they see paramedics loading somebody into an ambulance. As they drive by, it's an older man with long hair, and he's holding a Jeremiah 11:11 cardboard sign. He has what looks like bloody stains on his chest, and I think he's wearing like a lucky rabbit's foot necklace. He looks dead, but they didn't put him in a body bag or cover his face. And then that super creepy kids choir music starts again.
Yes, and this is, I don't know if you caught this, but this is our first tethered attack. So that's the same guy that Addie saw on the boardwalk when she was little, and he's the first to get stabbed, or at least the first that we see.
Oh, okay. That makes sense because it definitely looks like stab wounds on his
and then
chest.
and then when Jason, we'll talk about it when we get there, but when Jason gets lost on the beach later, the tethered that he sees there is the one that killed this guy.
Okay. No, I definitely did not put that together. I knew it had something to do, but I didn't realize it was literal. Like, that's the first tag. Okay. That makes sense. The family gets to the beach and they start setting up, and some really unsettling music is playing. It's got lots of drums and like an electronic buzzing sound. It seems somehow both a little bit tribal, but also modern. It's just creepy. So it does its job. Addie notices that same mirror house from where she was a kid, and this time it's called Merlin's Forest, and invites you to come inside to find yourself. And I guess they changed the name to be slightly less exploitative because that's one of the only things anyone learned from the 80s, maybe?
Yes, I think so.
So the family finds their friends. This is Josh and Kitty and their two teenage twin daughters. They settle in, and Gabe and Josh start immediately talking about the boat. Josh asks if he got a flare gun for emergencies, and Gabe says no, so Josh roasts him for it. Meanwhile, Kitty asks if Addie is okay. Addie says she just doesn't really like small talk. Josh gets Kitty a refill of her wine and kind of teases her about it. And then Kitty tells Addie that she thinks about murdering him sometimes, and Addie is like, oh, okay, so nothing has changed. Like, oh, that's so cute that your personality is you hate each other.
Yeah, not the best.
No. Kitty says that one thing has changed, and it's some plastic surgery that she got. And so she kind of gushes about that for a minute, and Addie seems just not interested. Meanwhile, Zora is talking with their daughters. Their names are Lindsay and Becca, and the twins are making fun of Jason. Jason starts to walk away, saying he's going to go to the bathroom. So Jason heads to the porta potties. Meanwhile, Kitty asks Addie if she misses dancing, and Kitty says that she could have been a star if she hadn't had the twins. Addie can't really focus, and suddenly a frisbee flies between them and lands perfectly on the beach towel. And it lands right on a blue dot that's in the towel pattern, and it's in the same shape as the frisbee. And Kitty remarks on this and says she's been having a lot of coincidences lately. Meanwhile, Jason emerges from the porta-john, and he sees a man standing on the beach with his arms out like a scarecrow. So this is the tethered guy who had murdered the guy holding the sign. So the man is wearing what looks like an old World War II kind of like olive drab green trench coat, and it looks like there's blood dripping from its fingers. It cuts back to the rest of the family, and Addie notices Jason is gone. She starts to look for him, and then she finds him, and she's super panicked, and she's like, never ever do that again. Later that night, back at the beach house, Gabe remarks that Josh only got his new fancy car as a dig at him. So apparently they had a conversation about that while they were talking on the beach. Gabe wants to stay up to watch some football highlights, and Addie goes to bed. Addie says goodnight to Zora and Jason, and she tells Zora to turn off her phone and tells Jason to take off his mask. He asks if Addie thought that he was dead when he got out of her sight at the beach, and that's why she was so upset. And she says no, she was just worried that he might have been lost or taken. And then he's like, taken by terrorists or perverts. And like, this is so hard because like you worry about your kids, but you don't want to ruin their childhood by just making them terrified of everything. But some stuff does kind of get through to them, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. They definitely pick up on it. And luckily, right now, my kids are little enough that like they're always right next to me and they don't really wander away. So I'm still in helicopter parent mode, but I'm so not ready for that to end, like for them to be out of my sight and me to not freak out and them not notice. But I will say, if my kid wandered off on their own on the beach without telling me, I'd lose my shit. But not because I would be worried that they were taken, but like drowning and all that stuff too. It's so scary. The beach is a scary place.
Yeah, there's a million things that could go wrong. So I'm
Mhm.
the same way. Like, they need to be in my eyesight almost
Yes.
at all times. Addie says that she's going to keep him safe, and then Jason notes that the time is 11:11. And she also sees that he drew a picture of himself at the beach, and it features that scarecrow man with the bloody hand. And then she asks him about it, and he's just like, I don't know. Later, Gabe and Addie are in their room, and Gabe is pitching a boat ride for tomorrow's activity. And then he poses on the bed in what he must think is a very sexy pose. But that, like, first of all, he's being a goofball. Secondly, that bed's tiny. It's not even big enough for him. So how are they supposed to sleep on it? It's just tiny.
No, I could never. This would definitely be a I'm gonna go sleep on the couch situation.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a vacation. That would be a nightmare. Addie says that she wants to leave and she hates it there and it's way too much. So Gabe is like immediately confused. And she says she feels like she has a black cloud hanging over her. She's facing the window and kind of looking away from him for this. And she says that she doesn't feel like herself. And he says, well, you look like yourself. And she turns around and just glares at him because that is an insane thing to say to someone who just said they don't feel like themselves.
I know. He's clearly not thinking with his brain here. This is definitely a thinking with his dick scene. And he's just like, well, this is my last chance to maybe get something tonight.
He does seem to lock in and realize that he's kind of being a dick and that she's serious. So she turns back to the window and she's staring at her reflection. And then she tells him about what happened to her as a kid on that boardwalk, which apparently he didn't know about. She says she thinks that that girl is still coming for her and that she is not okay. She starts talking about coincidences and what that might mean and how she thinks that the mirror girl is getting closer. Gabe is shocked that she never told him all of this, and he says that he's there for her, and then he tries to make a joke about how clearly he could take her in a fight, so if a mirror girl is like her, then he can definitely keep her safe. And then he once again realizes this is a bad joke and apologizes. And then the power goes off, and she's startled. And then Gabe says, well, this is why Josh has a backup generator. And then they both get startled as Jason comes into the room.
Do you think I'm curious. Do you think in this moment when she's terrified of the mirror girl coming to get her, do you think it's subconscious guilt or do you think that she knows this whole time what she really is?
I couldn't tell because it seems like she's gone through a great effort to not think about that time in her life.
Yeah, I'm truly torn on did she repress it or does she know? Like the whole movie. Obviously in the end she knows, but I'm curious. I don't know. Listeners, you tell me if you think she knew the whole time or not who she really was. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think you can lie to yourself for a long time and convince yourself it was a dream, especially if you're going through all this therapy where they're telling you that that's what happened, you know?
Right. And I mean, she's taking all this time to acclimate and turn herself into, what the world perceives as a normal human being. So maybe in that process, she really lost sight of who she was before that. But I don't know.
Yeah. As Jason comes to the room, he says that there is a family in their driveway. And the parents are like, no, there isn't. And then they go check, and yes, there is. And then Jason calls it a boogeyman family. They're all wearing identical red jumpsuits, and it's 2 adults, 1 man and 1 woman, and then 2 kids. Each member of the family in red jumpsuits looks exactly or almost exactly like Addie and her family. So to keep it a little less confusing, I'll refer to the red jumpsuit people as mirror people. If you look this movie up, you'll notice that Mirror Addie is also referred to as Red, And it is the same actor playing both. But when I'm talking about the people in the red jumpsuits, I'll refer to them as the mirror version.
Yeah, and I just want to say I love how creepy this visual is. Like if I saw a family of 4 holding hands in my driveway at night, kind of like off to the side, just staring at me, I would shit myself. Addie has the correct response to this here in a moment when she tries to call the police.
Oh, yeah. This is terrifying. And this would scare me quite a bit. When I was a teenager, I was up entirely too late once, and I had this like bone-shaking fear of burglars. I'd never been robbed. My family had never been robbed. But for some reason, I got it to my head it was going to happen to me and it was going to be horrible. And one night, I'm in my room by myself, and I hear men outside. And I go look. I like sneak up to my window and peer down, and there are 2 grown men creeping around my front yard.
Ew,
And
no.
yes, and these are large men. And then I see they're like putting stuff on our front door, and they have like,
What?
yeah, they had like flyers or something. And so we called the cops, and that's how we caught my dad's friends from his church trying to TP our yard as a prank for like his birthday or something.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
I was like, was there a SWAT team in your bushes? What's going on?
It was
That's funny.
nuts. And to have that happen, like this was like another Dodge Grand Caravan incident. Like I was so scared of burglars that my worst fear is happening, and I'm just watching these men creeping around our yard. But yeah, it was just a prank.
Oh, that would scare me though. That's terrifying. There's no reason for men to be outside your windows at like late at night. No, thank you.
They should have been better at it, because then I wouldn't have seen them, and then it would have been a funny prank. And the flyers they were putting was like, I don't know. My dad was in the Marines, so it was like a joke about the Marine Corps or something. I don't know. It didn't really make a lot of sense to me at the time, nor upon
Yeah.
reflection now. But yeah,
That's
this would
crazy.
scare me, finding like a family just standing in the driveway glaring at us.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Addie tries to call 911 from Zora's phone, but the operator doesn't seem to think it's urgent. So Gabe goes outside and mutters about how he's trying to have a vacation and the entire family has lost his minds. Which, I mean, family vacations are stressful.
They are. And it's funny because this scene reminded me of my own robbery story where I did get robbed. The reason it reminded me of it was because I took a situation very seriously and my significant other did not believe me. And this was all happening while we were actively being robbed. So we had...
What?
Yes. It was early in our dating days, and I spent the night at his place, and he likes to sleep in the pitch black. Like you can't see an inch in front of your face, pitch black. And we had left our front door unlocked because one of our friends said he was like drinking at a bar near our place and he was maybe going to stop by after to crash on our couch. So we're like, all right, we're going to bed. We'll leave the door unlocked. We're in bed sleeping and I wake up to a noise. I hear somebody out in the other room and our friend had texted us that he wasn't coming that night. So I was like, okay, so it's not our friend, but there's definitely someone out there. So I wake up my significant other and I'm like, hey, I think there's someone out in your other room. And he was like, no, there's not. Go back to sleep. So I'm just laying there in the pitch black, listening to someone like rummage around in the apartment. And the next day we wake up, we go out, all of the food is gone. There was butter in the freezer. There was leftover chicken nuggets in the freezers. All of it was gone. The milk was gone.
What? They stole your butter?
Yeah, they stole our butter. Like our old leftover like buffalo chicken strips. And then they went in the wallets and took just the cash. I assume it was a homeless person who like only wanted to take enough for it to only, hit a certain level of crime or for us to not call the cops. Like they left the TVs, they left the computers, they left our credit cards. They just took our cash and our food.
The butter and cash thief of the greater Pennsylvania area.
Well, you want to know the best part was later that day, we were sitting there in the apartment and someone knocked on the door and it was a weird old guy. And he goes, you want to buy some stickers? And my significant other just goes, no, and like shut the door in his face. So for the longest time, that was our joke. We were just like, no, but we're pretty sure that was the guy that robbed us.
What kind of stickers?
Oh, you know what? I never asked. I don't know that he knows. I think the whole thing was just so wild. I don't know that he even processed it.
It was stickers of butter.
Probably.
He's like, I I will steal your sticks of butter, and then I will return to offer you stickers of butter.
Yeah, but anyway, all that to say that the dad in this scene reminded me a lot of my significant other not taking me seriously.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I didn't know that story. That's hilarious. So the dad goes outside and greets the family, and he's like, "Can I help you?" Meanwhile, Addie tells Zora to go put her shoes on, and the Mira family outside doesn't move. So Gabe gets pretty creeped out, and he goes back inside. He's like, "Okay, yeah, now it's time to call the cops." Addie says they're 14 minutes away. Gabe has the kids bring him a bat and then goes back outside and starts talking shit. Gabe tells the Mirror family that the cops are on the way. And then the woman does this like really unsettling tapping, clapping thing. And the kids, the Mirror kids, scurry. And that is the only way to describe what they do. They scurry off into the bushes. And the man, who is huge, by the way, starts menacing toward Gabe.
Yeah, the way the kids move here is terrifying. It happens so quickly too, at that like you can't even tell where exactly they went, and they move so fast and so inhuman, and it's pretty it sits with you. I think it's well done.
It does. And if you were kind of doubting that this was going to go somewhere bad, seeing that happen, like the clapping and then the kids scurrying off, you're like, oh, okay, yep, it's go time.
Yes. Well, especially because before that, you could be like, all right, maybe it's just a weird family that's messing with us. And then it's like, nope, something's happening here.
Gabe goes back inside and everyone starts trying to lock all their doors and windows. They hear banging on the house and Zora sees somebody climbing a tree outside and they're scaling it in like a kind of a creepy way. It's very choppy looking. Gabe keeps yelling threats through the front door, and Jason sees someone who's about his size pop up outside the window. He's wearing a mask, and it looks like one of those morph suit masks, but it's white, and they hear someone whistling Itsy Bitsy Spider. Somebody outside picks up a fake rock and gets the key out of it and then starts trying to open the door, and Addie says, oh, they must have found the hide key. And then Gabe goes, what kind of white shit is that? And I gotta ask Charlie, have you ever had a hide key? Is that in fact white shit?
I have never had like the fake rock that is a hide key. I've like strategically placed keys behind a series of locked things that maybe you could get to if you needed to, or like giving them to a neighbor like a spare. But I've never had a hide rock. I don't know if it is indeed white people shit or not, but it's definitely at least suburban shit. But I don't know. Have you had one?
And these are nice beach houses, and like they clearly come from money. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is too is that the beach houses are probably empty for a period of time as well. So it's, I mean, bold to have a hide key and
yes, very
not
bold.
expect someone to just wander into your home.
Yeah. So what is white people shit then? What is our culture? Because I am told frequently, and I don't disagree, that it's mostly like mayonnaise and bad dancing and being biologically incapable of not joining in enthusiastically whenever someone sings Sweet Caroline.
When I think of white people shit, I think of like boiled chicken without any seasoning on it. Or like there's this really funny TikToker that makes fun of white women for approaching like the scariest dogs or animals in the world and being like, oh, you're so cute, let me cuddle you. And it's like a giant bear.
Like me with a bobcat. Psst, 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 come here.
Exactly.
Yeah. Gabe fights to keep the door closed, but Mirror Gabe snatches the bat that he has through the door, and then he attacks Gabe and then slowly opens the door, and then all of a sudden there's glass just breaking everywhere in the house. So we see some movement, and we know that some of the others have made it inside. Addie and her kids huddle together as the Mirror people enter the home and stare down Addie. Mirror Addie is holding a giant pair of scissors, and she walks around the room and then turns to face the family. And she gestures like a welcoming gesture. And suddenly the kid with the mask on leaps through the window, breaking glass and scaring everyone. And then he scurries on the floor like Gollum.
Yes, everything about this scene is so cool. But I will say I'm not like a big fan of like collectibles or anything like that. But I want a pair of these scissors so bad. They just seem so satisfying to me. And I don't know if it's because like I'm a cross stitcher and I'm into like custom made scissors or what, but like I really want a pair.
Yeah, because they're overly large and they're brass. They almost look like scissors you would cut like for a ribbon cutting ceremony. So Mirror Addie lights a fire And the light kind of reveals the Mirror family's facial features even more. And Jason says, "It's us." Mirror Addie strokes the masked head of Mirror Jason, who is crawling and grunting like an animal. Gabe treats this like it's a totally normal home invasion because he must just be purely in denial. And he's like, "We've got nothing here." Suddenly, Mirror Addie starts speaking, and she sounds awful. Like she hasn't spoken in years, or she hasn't, much breath to spare. She says, and I'm not going to try to do the accent because I'm going to ruin it, but she tells this story, and she says, "Once upon a time, there was a girl, and the girl had a shadow. The two were connected, tethered together. When the girl ate, her food was given to her warm and tasty. But the shadow, when she was hungry, she had to eat rabbit, raw and bloody. On Christmas, the girl received wonderful toys, soft and cushy. But the shadow's toys were so damp and cold, they'd slice through her fingers when she tried to play with them. The girl met a handsome prince and fell in love. But the shadow, at the same time, met Abraham. It didn't matter if she loved him or not. He was tethered to the girl's prince after all. Then the girl had her first child, a beautiful baby girl. But the shadow gave birth to a little monster. Umbre was born laughing. The girl had a second child, a boy this time. They had to cut her open and take him from her belly. The shadow had to do all of this herself." So was she giving herself a C-section? Is that what she's saying?
Yeah. Yeah. She ripped herself open
Oh
and
my
gave
God.
herself a C-section. I know. Isn't it crazy? I love everything about this scene. This and the Hereditary dinner scene are probably my top 2 horror movie scenes of all time. And the voice is just so good, and the acting here is just incredible. There's just nothing creepier than this scene.
It is really, really creepy. And it's kind of hard to believe, like, I don't know, imagine yourself in that scenario where you're like, I thought there were just some weird people outside, and now this is happening. I don't know what to do to process this. But the Mirror Addie keeps talking, and she says that she named the boy Pluto because he was born to love fire, and that the shadow hated the girl so much for so long until one day the shadow realized she was being tested by God. At this point in the movie, Mirror Addie has tears streaming down her face as she's told the story, and she looks absolutely insane. She freezes, and her face is frozen into like this creepy stare with her eyes and mouth wide open, and it looks almost exactly like when we saw them in the mirror rooms at the beginning. Gabe says, "Excuse me, what do you want?" Which I think is a valid question. And then he offers his car, his wallet, his boat. But when he says that, Zora's like, "Nobody wants that boat, Dad."
I love the jokes in this movie.
Yeah. And he offers to go to the ATM for them and get more cash. And then Mirror Gabe, who we now know is called Abraham, starts screaming at him. Gabe reaches up to fix his glasses, and then Abraham kind of mirrors him and like reaches up to fix the glasses that he's not wearing on his face. Gabe asks who they are, and Mirror Addie says, "We're Americans," which, what?
Yeah, I know. The "we're American" things I'll talk about at the end a little bit more. But I will say the glasses thing is the first indication we get that the real people have control over their tethered selves. That's why Abraham does it when Gabe does it.
Yeah, I took that as him mocking him almost.
It could be a little bit of both. It could be like I've had to do this movement so many times down below, and now I'm seeing it in real life, so I'm going to mock you.
Yeah.
It could be.
Or he's practicing for when he takes over. I don't know. That's how I took it. Mirror Addie then pulls out some shackles, and Pluto brings them over to Addie. Mirror Addie tells Addie to tether herself to the table. And then Gabe is like, "Don't do it." So Mirror Addie snatches up the scissors in her hands, and she threatens him and says maybe she should cut something off of him. Addie puts the cuff on her wrist and then ties herself to the table.
I hate this scene. I'm so frustrated with Addie in this scene. Like, is a table bolted to the ground? There has to be a better way to do like a sleight of hand trick that she can be able to get out of those cuffs later, and she just doesn't. She just actually cuffs herself to the table.
Yeah, I have
bothers
no
me.
idea what I would do in this situation either.
Yeah, well, and what bothers me more is when she's trying to escape later and she's like acting like the table can't move. Like, pick the table up and bring it with you. Like, let's go, girl.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm dragging that thing.
Yeah.
Addie begs them not to hurt her kids, and then Mirror Addie does this like really creepy hand signal, and Abraham seems to like release a breath or something, like he was being held back, and he approaches Gabe. He snatches Gabe's glasses and puts them on, and then he starts dragging Gabe over the broken glass into another room. Mirror Addie does another hand signal, and Umbre approaches Zora. Mirror Addie says, "Little girl, run." And I gotta just say, Umbre is terrifying. Her smile, her run, all of it. It's insane that these are all the same actors because she is truly such a different character than Zora. And the same for Lupita Nyong'o's character. They're both incredible in both of their roles for this, and it's wild that they're the same person.
They do such a good job, and especially the actress that plays Zora, because she's so young too. So to have this much skill at such a young age, they do so good.
Yeah, it's great. Addie tells Zora to go. Umbre looks back at Mirror Addie, who does a clicking signal with her mouth in her hand, and then Umbre starts to follow Zora. Meanwhile, Abraham has kicked Gabe down a small flight of stairs outside, and inside, Addie is trying to bargain with Mirror Addie. Like, you want me, right? Like, that's who you're after. Mirror Addie sends Pluto to take Jason, and then Addie says no. And Mirror Addie says, careful, he has a temper. We watch Zora sprinting down the street and disappearing into the distance. And then there's a close-up of Umbre's face smiling menacingly before she takes off after Zora. Meanwhile, Gabe sees Abraham pull out the scissors. He crawls away, and Addie tells Jason that he's going to be okay. And she says, go show him one of your tricks. So like a signal to how to get out of this. Mirror Addie says, go play, boys, don't burn our house down. Jason takes Pluto down the hall. Pluto is hopping and holding Jason's hand, and Jason leads him into the closet and props it open with the same ambulance toy from earlier. Meanwhile, Gabe is getting punched in the face by Abraham. In the closet, Pluto lights a candle and pulls Jason's Chewbacca mask over his head, and then they kind of sit knee to knee. And then, did you notice one of the board games you can see on the shelf in this scene is called Magic, and it's upside down? That has to be significant, right? Or was I wrong about this podcast taking 25 episodes to drive me mad?
No, I am sure it is significant, especially with the funhouse themes of Merlin and magic and all of that. And then the upside down, I'm sure it's just the whole mirror image thing and the mirror. But I couldn't find anything specific on this. But like Jordan Peele said, everything is intentional. So
yeah,
I'm sure it
unless we
means
hate it.
something. Right.
It could also just be he's turning his magic trick upside down.
Oh, well, is this a reveal where we get that Pluto's face is burned?
Yes. He takes off
So
his mask.
yes. So the reverse of his magic trick is that Pluto had to sit down there with probably a lighter and burned his face over and over and over.
Oh, God.
Well, Jason was up there doing his magic trick. At least that's what I got out of it. So what's just a fun little magic trick to Jason is torture to Pluto. Yeah.
So Pluto pulls Jason's hand, like kind of tugs at it, the hand that has the magic trick ring on it, and he tries to make it work. They do some mirror movements with each other, like tracing their hand movements. But when they both remove their masks, we see that Pluto has these horrific burn scars that we were just talking about, which I think explains both the mask and also like the grunting noises, because I assumed his vocal cords are damaged. And then the light goes off.
Well, I mean, I'm sure his vocal cords are probably damaged, but none of the tethered can speak. The only one who can is Red, and the only reason she can is because she wasn't originally tethered. And that's another reason why we know that Addie was originally a tethered, because when she switches places with Red, she can't speak, and it takes years for her to learn how to talk. And she even mentions on the beach when she's talking to Kitty that she still struggles with making like small talk or normal conversation to this day. And I think I talk about it a little bit more at the end, but just none of the tethered, they have their own language down there, and it's grunting and things like that because they're isolated from the world.
That's interesting. But also, I thought Addie just didn't want to talk to Kitty because she was annoying.
No, I mean, I am sure that is part of it, but also it's just showing us that she's struggled with speech her whole life. Yeah, the tethered don't talk.
Meanwhile, Zora is still running. In the background, you can see a red jumpsuit person who's Umbre running behind her and then darting off to the left on the screen. And then as Zora slows down, Umbre slides out in front of her. They stalk each other kind of through the windows of a parked car, and then suddenly Umbre ducks down. Zora looks under the car and sees nothing, and then the car moves and she's on top of the roof with her scissors. Suddenly, a guy in a tank top and boxers comes out of his driveway, and he's like, "What the fuck? Get off my car." And as Umbre is distracted, Zora takes off running. And in the background, we see Umbre kill this man as Zora just keeps running as fast as she can, heading back to the house. We cut to a close-up of Mirror Addie, who is holding her face in her hands, and then she kind of twitches all of her fingers against her face in this like super creepy way that made me think of a spider or an insect.
Yeah, I definitely got spider vibes here. And I wonder if part of it is because, like, one of the last noises she hears before she goes down into the tethered is that itsy bitsy spider song. So it's kind of like impacted her subconscious.
Addie asks her what she wants, and Mirror Addie grabs Addie's head and pushes it into the coffee table and says they want to take their time because they've been waiting for this day for so long. Addie's face is reflected in the glass of the coffee table, and Mirror Addie says, I call it the untethering. And as she says that, the glass in the table starts to splinter. So meanwhile, Gabe is in the back of his own boat, and he is in a giant black garbage bag, and he's poking a hole in it to try to see out. Then the motor goes out, and as Abraham is trying to fix it by punching it, he starts to yell something across the bay in that language that the tethered have, and something shrieks back at him, and it sounds like zombie noises. It's really unsettling. Then Gabe gets up and hits him with a baseball bat, and he knocks him into the water, and as he falls into the water, he kind of takes the lifesaver that's on the boat with him, and the rope that's attached to the lifesaver starts to unspool. Just then, the boat decides to work, and it launches forward. So now Gabe gets knocked into the water too. Both Gabe and Abraham surface, and then Abraham swims over to attack Gabe, but since he's tangled in the rope from the lifesaver, he gets dragged away by the runaway boat. Meanwhile, Jason and Pluto are still in the closet, and they put their masks back on. Pluto tries to get Jason to do his magic trick, and it finally sparks, which scares Pluto enough that Jason flings himself out of the closet and traps Pluto inside. Addie's face is still pressed against the coffee table, and there's this funny mom moment where both of the Addies can hear Pluto screaming, and Addie goes, "That's yours," which we've been there, right? You've got a bunch of kids in a group, and you hear one of them scream, and all the parents freeze and look at each other before they figure out which kid it is.
100%. I literally was with like 3 babies in a house yesterday, and it's funny because you can tell whose cry is who, but you'll be like, oh yeah, that's yours. Go get him.
Yeah, so this applies to the tethered as well, apparently. Mirror Addie goes to free him, and then they go look for Jason. Meanwhile, Addie is trying to free herself, and she notices the poker from the fireplace. Mirror Addie, meanwhile, has found the stuffed white rabbit, and she cuts off its head. In the bay, Gabe is swimming, and then he says it hangs to the left because the boat is coming back toward him because it basically just did a big circle. It sputters and it stops near him. Meanwhile, Addie managed to get the poker, and she used it to free herself from the coffee table. Gabe climbs on the boat, and Abraham chases after him, trying to kill him with the scissors. He pins him by the motor, and then Gabe realizes that Abraham is leaning right on the propellers. So he takes his head and he slams it on the motor housing, which causes the propellers to start, and then it just splatters Abraham guts everywhere. He releases Gabe and then sinks into the bay.
And that's a quality kill. I think that's that's a good one. I liked it. And it's one of the first moments that in this movie you go from complete dread to, okay, maybe this family has a chance because they were able to kill one of the tethered. So now it's 4v3. So maybe they'll make it.
Having the clarity of mind to realize that and take action, I don't know. I don't know that I could.
Oh, no. I'd like to think I'm as cool as these people are and would survive, but I would die so fast in these situations.
Yeah, I'm an Act 1 horror casualty, I fear.
Me too. I'm pretty sure. Maybe overconfidence would get me in the end. Who knows?
So Addie finds Jason, and she runs outside and meets up with Zora, and they hear sounds of Gabe in the bay with his shitty, wonderful boat. And then as they're running, we see Pluto just burst from the front door and skitter on the ground on all fours. And it's just so creepy. I know we've talked about this a little bit, but you cannot understate how creepy this is.
It is so creepy. It's like a combo almost of like a dog and a spider. Somehow he moves in a way that like his 4 limbs look spider-like. It's really creepy. It's well done.
It is very well done. I'm sure it's sped up a little bit, but it doesn't matter. It's good.
Yeah, however they created, they did a good job.
Yeah. So Pluto is chasing them toward the pier as Mirror Addie and Umbre join him on the beach. And then we hear that terrifying music with the children singing in a different language. Then we suddenly cut to Josh and Kitty in their fancy house, and Kitty's upset because she thinks she heard something. She wants Josh to check, and he doesn't want to. he does eventually check after some complaining, and he like peers outside, and then he like starts fucking with her. He's like, oh God, what is that I see? It's OJ Simpson. Like, what? Okay. They have this smart home speaker thing. It's not Alexa. They call it Ophelia, right?
Yeah, they do. And yeah, I'll talk about Ophelia in a little bit.
Okay, cool. And he starts to play Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys as their daughters come out and they ask what's going on because they hear the commotion. And the parents downplay it. And then suddenly their version of the Mirror family just emerges, like just melts out of the beams of the house somehow. And they just start stabbing everyone to death. It happens so fast. I absolutely was not prepared for this when I first saw it because I didn't realize there were more Mirror people until this moment. I know you pointed out that the Jeremiah 11:11 guy is one of them, but I didn't make that connection when I saw this when this movie came out.
Oh, that's interesting. So I did make that connection, and I did know that there were more Mirror people, but I agree that this happened so quickly. I anticipated the Mirror people to be outside, especially because the house is like all glass and windows. So I thought we were going to get some creepy scene where we see them outside and then they take their time with this family in the same way that Mirror Addie takes the time with her family. But no, it's just immediate, no nonsense murders. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, and it is a high contrast scene between what's happening with Addie and her family because at their place, it's a smaller, older house, still amazing, but it's smaller and older and has, the lights have gone out there, so they're like in the dark fighting this terrifying family. But at Josh and Kitty's place, it's like you said, it's modern, it's almost all glass, it's very bright, and all the lights are on and you can see everything. So it's very different.
Yes, and I think that goes right back to the duality thing that this movie loves to do. It's just I'm sure it was very intentional, and it's to show that duality in every way.
Yeah, and like the hyper modern home versus like the older, more established one. So it's all over very quickly, except for Kitty, who is gurgling and struggling to crawl toward Josh. The Mirror family is smiling and looking at each other. And then Mirror Josh goes and holds a hand out to Kitty to help her up. And then as she reaches for him, he does this like, I don't know, 80s or 90s thing where like you go to hold your hand out and then you do like psych, where you like reach up and brush your hand like you were just gonna comb your hair back. It's insane. It's such a weird, random way for him to toy with her. And then this whole scene is just completely unhinged.
Yeah, this whole thing is nuts. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier when Abe is making fun of Gabe by pushing the glasses up. Like, they're just finally doing these things in real life that they have been forced to do 1,000 times underground in the shadows. But it is unhinged. You could have offered me $1 million to guess what he was going to do in this moment, and I never would have guessed that.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Nope. Kitty is begging him to stop. And then the Ophelia home app goes, stopping Good Vibrations. So then Kitty is like, Ophelia, call the police. And then Ophelia goes, sure, playing Fuck the Police by NWA as Mirror Kitty comes up and slices Kitty's throat.
Okay, so here's where I want to talk about Ophelia for a second. So I don't know if you caught this, but did you catch that the Tylers, they got their wealth because Josh, the dad, created this Ophelia thing?
No, I completely missed that. I just thought he was just a rich asshole.
No, yeah, so I missed it too, but I went back and researched and I found it. But I also think, so the name Ophelia is significant here. So it comes from the Greek term and it means help. And I don't know if Josh was smart enough to name this thing Ophelia because, like, you ask it for help, or if it's just a fun thing that Jordan Peele did. But I do think that's the reason it's named Ophelia. But more importantly, the irony of this entire situation, like, it shows the shallowness of this family because they created their wealth off of a device that they designed to offer help, but they did it in such a way that in the end it was flawed and it couldn't save them. And I really like it. I think it's cool.
That is cool. Yeah. No, I didn't know that. I thought they were just doing that thing that movies do where they don't want to use, a brand that's already out there, so they make one up. Like, you can't Google something in a movie. You have to use search now or something.
Oh, that's true. I mean, and that could have been where it started from, but then they were like, well, if we have to do this, let's at least turn it into something interesting. And the other thing, I don't know if it has to do anything with the character Ophelia from Shakespeare. I'm sure most people are familiar with the character of Ophelia from the play Hamlet. But in that play, she starts to go crazy and she would like sing random songs and say things that made no sense. So that could also be a little play at that. But
Oh, I love that.
yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's well done. It's a fun little detail.
Yeah, that makes much more sense in the story now that I know that. Okay, cool. Meanwhile, Addie and her family have arrived at Josh and Kitty's house to get help. Mirror Josh answers the door, and Addie realizes almost immediately that he's one of them. So she takes the poker that she's still carrying and she like smacks him in the head. But the rest of the Mirror family pull Addie inside the house as Mirror Josh lunges for Gabe. Mirror Josh is shrieking like a zombie, and then the kids hide and they sneak into the house to help their mom. All, I will remind you, while Fuck the Police is still blaring. Zora grabs a golf club and finds the bodies of Kitty and Josh. They can hear their mom screaming and struggling upstairs, so they head there. And Jason finds himself like a giant crystal. He grabs that as his weapon, and then he puts his mask back on. And these kids are so brave. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I had that thought. Like, they are so badass. Everything that they do in this scene is insane. I could never, especially as a child, but I love it. I love their characters so much.
Yeah. In the hall upstairs, they see the bodies of the twins on the floor. And then one of the mirror twins is doing like a cartwheel in the distance. And then suddenly, one of the mirror twins cartwheels in front of them with scissors in her hand and goes to swipe at them. But Zora smacks her right in the temple with a golf club. She goes careening over the stairwell and falls onto the bottom floor. The kids enter a room and they get surprised from behind by the other mirror twin. But Zora beats the shit out of her with a club. Like, they don't actually show the mirror twins like bloodied corpse, but you can see Zora attacking her with just like unmitigated rage, and there's blood splattering everywhere. It's incredibly violent, and she definitely wants to make sure she's dead. And then meanwhile, we see Mirror Kitty applying Kitty's makeup and kind of just like looking dreamily in the mirror as Addie is chained to the bed. Gabe, meanwhile, is still limping away from Mirror Josh, and he makes it to Josh's boat. And it's funny because it's a very slow chase scene because they are both injured. Meanwhile, Mirror Kitty is menacing Addie with the scissors before taking them to her own face.
Did you wonder why she cuts her own face here? Or did you know why she did it?
No, it made no sense to me.
Okay, so do you remember at the beach when they're talking about how Kitty got all kinds of plastic surgery?
Oh,
and then you remember
okay.
how Mirror Addie had to perform her own C-section? So Mirror Kitty was down there giving herself all of these plastic surgeries.
Uh-huh.
So it's
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
So, but why cut her face now?
I don't know. Probably because they're nuts from all of the stuff they had to endure down there.
Or is she undoing it?
Untethering, maybe. That could be part of it.
Or like undoing the plastic surgery.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Like now that she has control of herself, like she spent all this time torturing herself down below while Kitty tried to make herself beautiful. So she's undoing all of the beauty. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We watch Gabe hide in Josh's boat as Mirror Josh boards and does his little zombie shriek. Gabe shoots a flare gun at him, but it lands in front of him like a dud instead of actually shooting him. They start to struggle, and then Mirror Kitty is watching the fight from her window. And then she does this like really weird sobbing thing with no noise, but then it like, so you think she's freaking out that her mirror husband is getting killed, but that sob, it's really creepy because there's no noise, and then it turns into laughter.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening there. It could be because, Kitty hates her husband, right? So maybe this tethered Kitty also hates Josh. So it's a little bit of yes, they're married and they're together, but that underlining like they hate each other thing. And so she's just happy he's finally dead. And then this is another example of that. The tethered can't speak. So when she does that screaming thing, she doesn't make a noise. And yeah, it's another example of how they have their own language of their own moans and grunts to communicate with each other. But also one thing to note, so now we've seen it a couple times where when the tethered commit acts of violence or are involved in high stress scenarios, they do those little like clicks and moves and moans and groans. If you watch Addie carefully, every time as the movie progresses, she starts to become her tethered self more and more, and she starts to make those same noises and kind of revert back to who she was down there.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I did
so
not see that.
yeah, at the end when she kills, well, I'm jumping ahead, but at the end when she kills Mere Addie, she goes nuts. She does all that clicking and the spider movement and all that because she's like reverting back to the way she was down there.
Oh, I'm going to have to watch that scene again.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
didn't
good.
catch that at all.
It's very intense. Yeah.
We then watch as Zora sneaks up behind her, but Mirror Kitty catches her before Zora can kill her. She pins her to the bed, and then she's going for the kill with her scissors, but then Jason shows up and he smashes Mirror Kitty's head with this giant crystal. And then I Got Five on It starts to play. We see Gabe limping back. He knocks on the front door, which is an interesting decision. Zora answers the door, and she is just exasperated and goes, "It was unlocked." Gabe says, "Boats are done." And at first you think he's saying they're like not working or something, but he just goes, "I am done with boats." And the family just sits at a table in this blood-splattered home. They try to call 911, but all the lines are busy. And so they assume that there are more of these mirror families everywhere. They turn on the news and they listen as a woman describes a scene on the boardwalk where people in red who don't look right just started attacking people in the crowd with scissors. And they said that they were coming out of the sewers. Then she abruptly leaves and says, "Oh no, they're coming." We then see footage from the scene where people in red are lining up and holding hands like a paper chain or a human chain of some sort. The person filming gets attacked by one of them, and then the family sits there and talks about what they should do. Gabe says they should stay put because they're safe, and Addie says, "Tell that to Josh and Kitty. They're right here," and points at Kitty with her poker. And then Gabe says, "You're scaring the kids," and they both say together, "Too late." Addie says they think like them, so they're going to come for them. They know where they're hiding. Like, hiding is not going to help. Gabe talks about setting traps like in Home Alone. And Addie goes, "We aren't going to get out of this by sprinkling micro machines on the floor." And the kids go, "What's Home Alone and what's micro machines?"
I love this whole scene so much. Like, I want to be a part of this family. If I was a part of a family dynamic that responded to crisis in this way, amazing. My family would just be in that room screaming at each other, not making jokes and being cute.
Yeah. They all load up into Josh and Kitty's, I think it's like a Range Rover. It's some very expensive car, but they forgot the keys. So Addie goes back into the house to find them. And then she notices that the twin who had been sent over the railing isn't on the floor anymore. She sees the key and she rushes to grab it and also grabs a cast iron pan just as the mirror twin attacks. Addie hits her with the pan and the twin falls, but then springs back up like a spider monkey and leaps onto Addie. Addie struggles to grab some scissors off the floor, and just then Jason walks in right in time to see his mom violently dispatching the mirror twin. And then they all get in the car and Zora's like, "I'm driving. I have the highest kill count." And then the family argues about who has the highest kill count.
It's so cute. I love it. I can't stand how much I love this family. Also, I just realized right now that Zora's doing this because this whole time, even at the beginning of the movie, she wanted to drive. She's been wanting to drive the whole time. And she's like, what better time to drive than an apocalyptic scenario? Like, let's do it.
Yeah. Teenagers are, when they decide to do something, they're very dedicated to it.
Yeah. And listen, if it's the end of the world and I was a kid and my parents didn't let me drive, I think I would also mention my kill count.
I loved this, though. This is very funny. Their fight over the kill count gets cut short because they see Umbre in the distance, and Addie gets in the car and Zora says, "Buckle up." And then she floors it and tries to hit her, but Umbre jumps on the roof of the car and tries to attack them from the roof. Then she tries to attack them through the windshield. So Zora speeds up and then slams on brakes, which sends Umbre flying. And then Addie weirdly follows where she saw Umbre's form go flying into the woods, and she sees a mangled and twisted Umbre pinned in a tree. She is laughing and swiping at Addie even as she dies. So then Addie gets back in the car and drives off as dawn approaches.
Yeah, I think this scene's really sad. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that Addie is tethered too. I don't know if she knows that in this scene, but she knows that these people, are like her. And I don't know, if I saw someone that looked like my daughter dying in a tree, like slowly struggling, I would want to kind of comfort her too and be sad about it. So I don't know. It's really weird. It's very strange.
I don't know how I would process that.
But you know what? I bet it is a little bit of that duality, right? So it's this thing that you're terrified of because of what it is. It's just this thing trying to kill you, but also you feel this love for it because it looks just like your own child who you love more than anything. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if her memories are coming back and she's starting to realize that she's one of them, that just puts another layer on it.
Yeah, exactly.
As the light comes up and they're driving through the town, they see bodies just everywhere. Jason finally gets his magic ring to spark, and he and Zora fist bump, which is kind of a cute sibling moment. They find their car set on fire, like their car from earlier, and Pluto is standing in the middle of the road just snapping. Addie gets out with her poker and approaches as Pluto keeps snapping his fingers. She holds out her hand, and he lifts his mask. Jason says this is a trap and tells them all to get out, and that's right when Addie notices that there's a line of flame leading under the car. And then Pluto and Jason both kind of spread their arms and start walking backwards away from each other. Pluto walks directly into the flaming car and he sets himself on fire as Mirror Addie suddenly emerges and snatches Jason. And why is he setting himself on fire? I don't get it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of theories and confusion behind the scene and why it happened. People think that the real Jason got burned, like in an accident, and then after he got burned, Addie took him down, switched him out with Shadow Jason, and brought him up. I don't like that theory. I think there's too many holes in it. And then some people think that Jason's more powerful than a normal person because he's half human and half tethered, and he realizes that in this moment, so he uses it to control Pluto.
Oh, so Jason is controlling Pluto in that. Okay.
That's what's happening here. Though there is a theory that this is like a double layer trap, and Pluto is going to burn himself here anyway because Mirror Addie or Red told him to, so that she could kidnap Jason to trick Addie to follow her underground. But what I think is happening here is that because Pluto and Jason took the time in the closet to get to kind of study each other, and they had this connection where they were almost playing with each other. Also, Jason does that repetitive motion with the magic trick so often, and it's the same thing over and over and over and over again, that I think his connection with Pluto is just deeper than the other tethered, like because he's had so much practice doing this simple thing and controlling him. So I think he just in this moment is really smart and knows he can control Pluto and walks him back into the fire.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we do know that the people above land have some control over the tethered because in a scene that you're going to tell us about here in a minute, when they go down back underground, Red tells Addie that they were an experiment, and originally the shadows were supposed to control the people, but actually the reverse happened. The people up top controlled the shadows, so they were abandoned by the government. So we know that the control piece has always been there. Jason just taps into it.
I didn't know there were multiple theories, but I think Jason being more powerful and being able to control because he's half tethered, I think that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I like that one with a combo of they took a minute to get to know each other in the closet and study each other, so that control's just a little deeper.
Yeah. Addie sees the mirror people on the beach and she enters the mirror maze. She gets spooked by the mechanical owl just like she did as a kid, but she just smashes it with the poker, which I thought was hilarious. She has memories of the incident from her childhood, and she finds a secret door. When she opens it, a white rabbit hops out. She goes down some stairs into an industrial area, and then goes down more stairs, and it's like a subway maintenance tunnel, kind of what was alluded to at the beginning of the movie. And this place is huge. She even finds an escalator and goes down that, and it opens up into what looks like a giant school or something with really clean halls and lots of bunnies hopping around. We see the classroom that we saw early in the movie with the bunny cage from earlier, but all of the bunnies have been let out.
Yeah, and I will just say, I haven't seen the movie yet, but this gives some very deep backroom vibes, doesn't it? The abandoned subway tunnel. It seems very backrooms, yeah.
Liminal spaces.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Gabe and Zora found an ambulance and they're trying to heal themselves, and they see a line of the mirror people holding hands, and then Gabe says it must be some kind of fucked up performance art. Addie finds Mirror Addie in a classroom, and she is in front of a chalkboard, and there's a bunch of stick figures drawn on the chalkboard, and she is cutting up a paper chain of people. And she says it's not fair that Addie got to grow up with the sun while they were all stuck down there. even though they're just like them. She says humans built this place, and she says they figured out how to copy the body, but not the soul. So they abandoned the project, but the tethered continued to exist.
Yeah, and I think this scene is so terrifying. The way it's filmed, where you just see a little bit of Red's face while she's telling the story. Ugh, it's terrifying.
Yeah, it's super creepy. And Addie flashes back to the incident that happened at the boardwalk when she was a kid. And this time it's showing how Mirror Addie practiced moving around the carnival like a normal person. So all the other tethered are in these halls and they're acting out carnival rides and carnival games and everything. Mirror Addie says that God brought them together on that night. And she says she spent years planning this. And then there's a back and forth cut of Addie and Mirror Addie dancing ballet as children. And then in the present day, they're kind of dancing around the room as Addie is trying not to be killed. And this part confused me a little bit because Mirror Addie is saying that ballet helped prove that she could change everything and that God brought Addie to her, but it's really confusing.
So yeah, the way I understand this scene is that when Addie was dancing her recital, Red was able to take that moment to break free and create her own unique dance which the tethered recognized as something different. Which honestly, they probably recognized it because this was the recital, so she had probably been practicing it and practicing it and practicing it, so it was the same every day, every day, every day until Red broke free. So Red was underground using ballet to break free and stand out so she could rally the tethered to freedom. Well, Addie was using dance to learn how to communicate and mimic normal day life and everyone around her. So I think it's that duality thing that the film explores.
Okay.
So it was like her divine purpose to be the leader of the tethered.
Do we think it's because Addie was a human from the beginning that she, I don't know, could overcome that?
Yes. Yeah, because Addie was a human, she was able to break free from and be different down with the tethered. She's also like I said, the only tethered who can talk or communicate. And she also has some experience with the surface. And actually at the end, I'll talk about how that all drove her plan to be exactly what it turned out to be. So
Okay.
none of it is coincident. It's all very intentional. But we'll
Okay.
dig into it a little bit more.
So they continue to fight as the song 5 on It continues to play. And Addie stumbles into the hall and they fight there as the dancing montage continues. So then we see Mirror Addie stab Addie in the stomach. Addie stumbles through the bunk room as Mirror Addie attacks. But finally, Addie stabs her all the way through her stomach. And then Mirror Addie starts trying to whistle Itsy Bitsy Spider. But Addie just strangles her with the cuffs that she still has on her wrist. And then Addie starts screaming as she kills Mirror Addie.
Yeah, so two things here. One, this is actually really sad because Red, so the one who's being murdered, when she was switched, she was really nervous in that boardwalk game and she was calming herself by whistling Itsy Bitsy Spider. So what she's doing in this moment while she's dying is trying to calm herself, and that breaks my heart. And then I know, right? And then that scream that Addie does here while she's killing her is that clicking kind of thing. You'll have to go back and watch it. It's really intense. It's really well done. But it's her going almost all the way back to her tethered self before she kills it altogether.
That is sad. She, like we said, she started screaming as she's killing Mirror Addie, and then she starts laughing. She pulls a key off of Mirror Addie and unlocks the cuffs, and then she finds Jason, who's been hiding in a locker and probably saw his mother do another murder. And she says that they can't hurt him and it's all going to be okay. They rejoin Gabe and Zora in the ambulance and they drive away. As Addie drives, she remembers a therapy lesson from after the incident, and she remembers the mirror house incident from her childhood. But this time, she remembers being snatched into the tethered's world and waking up chained to a bed and watching Mirror Addie take her new Thriller t-shirt and leave. So now Addie remembers who she really is, and she notices Jason looking at her with suspicion as he pulls down his mask, and she smiles and shrugs. And then we watch the ambulance head down a long road, and it pans to overhead shots of the landscape, and then a huge line of the tethered stretched across the landscape as helicopters are circling above. End of wild movie. And I have so many questions, but my biggest one If Addie, who was tethered and then switched places with real Addie, could learn to become a normal human, why couldn't they just all do that?
I mean, technically they could. And I think a huge subcontext of this movie is classism. And it's the idea that there's a group of people that are abandoned and ignored and seemingly stuck. And occasionally someone is able to break out of that system and get out and become a quote unquote normal human. But then the rest remain stuck there. And I think that's part of what this movie is. And that's one of the things it's speaking about. I don't think it's completely what this movie is about, but I think that's the point, that they could have probably found a way out, but they have been raised in such isolation and in such a crazy, unique way that they just don't know how. And for some of them, it probably never even occurs to try to leave. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you grew up in isolation, you don't know what you don't know.
you don't know what you don't know. You might not even know that there's a whole nother world out there. I mean, that's all these tethered have ever known. The fact that Addie even knows that they're not natural, that this isn't normal, that there's something else, is because she got switched. So, yeah, it's just interesting.
Okay, so we dug into the plots, and now you're going to dig deeper. So, what have you uncovered about these untethered?
Yeah, so there's so much I want to talk about, and you know how much I love to break down symbolism in a movie. But before we do that, let's continue on with our discussion a little bit about what the meaning of this movie is. So, in an interview with NPR, the director, Jordan Peele, stated that it started with a fear that I can't explain. This idea that if I saw myself on the street, you immediately know that one of you might go. There's only room for one. And on top of that, if you see yourself and yourself smiles back at you, you know the other one has the upper hand. And I do have to say, I agree with this. And doppelgangers freak me out so much. It's one of the like cryptid myths things that really get under my skin. And I really wanted to dive into doppelganger lore here, but we don't have the time. We'd be here all day. So you have to promise me that we'll do another doppelganger movie at some point.
I'm sure it's going to come up.
Yes, because I want to talk about it more. But I agree with Jordan Peele here that doppelgangers are so freaky.
There was this like analog horror trend on TikTok a little while ago where it was like, it sounds like a news announcer voice going, if you see yourself, it is not yourself. You need to run immediately. And then it would just be scenes of people finding their doppelgangers smiling at them. And it's very chilling.
Yeah, it's super creepy. And so to talk about that a little bit more, Peele went on to say this, quote, now throughout history, the doppelganger mythology exists. And what I think it represents is this. It's everything that we don't face in ourselves. It is a representation of the guilt, the trauma, the fear, the hatred that might be buried underneath layers of pleasantry. All that stuff we don't deal with. When it comes out in crazy ways. I tried to apply this idea of duality to everything in the film. And I think the piece of the puzzle that pushed me to embark on this is the idea of a doppelganger family. That's when the movie sort of went from being about self-introspection to the idea of a societive or collective introspective, end quote. It did originally start with just him saying that it was just about the evils of yourself and looking inward. But as he wrote this movie and developed it more, it did become a little bit of a introspective on society as a whole. And in this same interview, Peele admits that there's a lot of American imagery in this movie, and people do pick up on it. And it does talk about the duality of our country. But he also says it's much bigger than that. It's bigger because to him, us is subjective. Us can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But ultimately, the idea of us means that there is some form of them. So his key takeaway is this, and this is a quote from him, quote, so that is what this movie is about to me. It's that whatever your us is, we turn them into the enemy, and maybe we are our own worst enemy.
Jeez, that feels very American, unfortunately.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of both here. It's not how it originally started. So the whole movie isn't about classism and America, but there's certainly some that is. And I think really what it is about is the duality of man. And that's what I like to take away from this movie. Well, there's a lot I like to take away from this movie, but I think that's one of the cool things about it. So let's talk about how Peele shows duality throughout the movie and dive into the symbolism a little bit more. And I want to talk first with the outfits that the tethered wear, the red jumpsuits with the one glove. And do you have any guesses on what a red jumpsuit and a single glove have in common?
My guesses are it's either something like baseball or it's prison.
No, no. Scroll down. Scroll down in our notes. I have 2 pictures for you.
Well, I was never gonna know that.
Okay, so for the listeners, I just showed Eleanor 2 photos
Oh
of
my God.
Michael Jackson.
Oh my God. I was homeschooled. You know this about me.
Well, the movie literally starts with Addie getting a Michael Jackson t-shirt.
I don't know what Michael Jackson like. I have seen the Thriller video, but it's not like, I don't know, it's not imprinted on my DNA.
Well, it was imprinted on Addie's. So
that makes a lot of sense. So I'm looking at a picture of Michael Jackson in Thriller in a red jumpsuit, and I'm looking at a picture of Michael Jackson in a later era where he would wear one glove, right? That was like a shtick he had.
Yeah, that was like his thing. He would wear this one white, like bedazzled glove. So not the gross gloves that we see the tethered wearing, but his like one glove was his thing.
Oh my God.
So yeah. So the outfits are Michael Jackson. That is what inspired those outfits. So
I was never ever going to guess that. I know the Annie Are You Okay song, and I'm aware of the Thriller video and the song kind of, but I would have to think very hard to think of more Michael Jackson songs.
That's funny. I mean, I recognize the songs. I don't know that I would have come up with this. Maybe the red, but I did forget about the glove thing until I was researching it. But so let's talk about why Red chose these outfits for the tethered specifically. And honestly, what it comes down to, and a lot of the decisions that Red, who is the mere Addie, makes, is because of all of the last things she sees before she goes underground. And one of the things that she takes with her, or one of the last things that she has, is that Michael Jackson Thriller t-shirt, which, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but the number t-shirt that was 11.
Oh, when she won it from the prize wall or whatever?
Yeah, so that was our first 11 that we saw.
Okay.
But as Eleanor said, in the Thriller music video, he wore a primarily red jumpsuit. And then he's also famous for that single white glove that he wore often after, I think it debuted after the Billie Jean music video. So it is like a later era Michael Jackson. And like I said, you'll notice that a lot of the choices Red makes revolve around those last few things, like the rock, paper, scissors we talked about when she's going underground. And also, one of the last things she ate was that red candy apple, which is very bright red. So that's another reason why the color red stuck with her when she was down there.
I am just trying to imagine what an embarrassing world I would have created if I got dragged to the underworld and the last thing I saw as an 11-year-old became the entire culture. And I'm afraid it would be something related to like the Newsboys or some other like Christian band.
Oh my God. I mean, however, that could, if you turn it around right, it could come out really creepy.
Oh, no. Especially, I think members of that band were predators. I think I remember reading that recently. So,
ew. Well, hey, kind of same with Michael Jackson, which we're about to get into. So, like I mentioned, Mere Addie or Red, she pulls a ton of imagery from the things down there. And I know I just said we're going to talk about Michael Jackson more. We're going to come back to him. But first, we got to talk about the Hands Across America shirt that she had when she was down there. So I think you noticed that the one t-shirt that they swap out is a Hands Across America shirt. And guess what? Michael Jackson participated in that fundraiser.
oh, okay.
Yeah, isn't that funny? But to give a little bit more context on it, it was a fundraiser. It was held on May 25th, 1986, Memorial Day weekend, and it attempted to create a continuous human chain of people holding hands across the United States. Approximately 5 million people participated, but the chain was broken in a lot of places, specifically like in the desert or over the mountains and things like that. And they tried to gap those holes with like holding scarves or ropes or something to still connect everybody, but it didn't always work. Another issue with the fundraiser was that the number of people who participated would have been about enough to create an unbroken chain across the United States, but most of the people who joined this traveled to major cities to join it. There's not very many that went to a remote area to be a part of the chain. So there is a lot of gaps that were never filled. They did make a lot of money, and then all the proceeds were donated to local charities to fight hunger and homelessness to help those in poverty.
So this was a charity where you had to pay to go hold somebody's hand.
Yes, a nightmare. Yes.
This is a nightmare. And also, this is so 80s. There is no way on planet Earth that millennials would, or Gen Z for that matter, would participate in this nonsense. They'd be like, you got to go fund me or something. I'll send the cash, but I am not doing that.
Yeah, I'm not traveling to some remote location to hold a stranger's hand. Like, that's such a good point.
When you put it like that, it's so creepy and weird.
Exactly why Jordan Peele chose it. I do. I love it.
I remember hearing that when this movie first came out, and I remember not really understanding it. And it is becoming so clear to me now. Because also, like, these people spent resources to go do this thing. Like, you could have spent those resources helping the problem.
Yes, yeah, they could have. And also, I did find that this fundraiser didn't raise nearly as much money as they originally anticipated it would. It did raise some. I think it was like 15 million or something like that, but they anticipated a lot more. Yeah, an interesting fundraiser for sure. But speaking about Jordan Peele's choices, why did he choose Michael Jackson? So let's go back to the duality thing. This is a direct quote from Peele himself. Quote, Michael Jackson is probably the patron saint of duality. The movie starts in the 80s. The duality with which I experienced him in the time was both as the guy that presented this outward positivity, but also the Thriller video, which scared me to death. So the reason he chose Michael Jackson was because he was like this positive, like outward influence, but also his Thriller movie scared him. So he saw him as a duality. But let's talk about the more controversial side of Michael Jackson. So the costume designer Barrett says she had no idea that the documentary Leaving Neverland was going to be released just weeks before Us. The spotlight that was shown on Michael Jackson around this time, she wasn't anticipating that. And she says, quote, I didn't really think about how it would be good or bad for the movie. It was just an eye-opening thing. What really stuck with me was that in the last trials, the world was seeing him in a different way, and you were more likely to say, he could be, but what if he's not? Or, there was some reason. Whereas this, for me anyway, really shone light on stuff that had been not put out in the open. End quote. So the controversy of Michael Jackson was not the original, like, driving force behind that choice, but it came out, like, at the same time that that documentary did that kind of brought light back to that.
Which kind of leans into the duality thing with
It
him.
does, a little unintentionally, but it absolutely does, yes.
Have you seen that documentary?
Not the whole way through. I do, like, I know the story behind it, and I know the documentary is about two individuals that came out that say they were sexually assaulted by Michael Jackson when they were children.
Yeah, I have to confess, I don't know very much about it. I've never seen the documentary. I'm aware that some stories might have been exaggerated. I'm also aware that some people who say that the loudest may have a financial interest in making that claim. So I simply don't know. I don't remember how the trial went. The only thing I remember about this period was, I think, for at least one of them, they were not allowed to have cameras in the courtroom. So a TV station, I don't remember which one, made the truly wild decision to reenact the entire trial every day with actors, including a guy who looked just like who was made out to look just like Michael Jackson. So you couldn't watch the trial, but you could watch a line by line, or I think it was line by line, recreation every day that this trial was happening.
That's crazy. I don't remember that at all. I will say that I do know that the trials ended in Michael Jackson being acquitted, so he was never found guilty of this stuff. And then the documentary was just, it brought light to a lot of things that either were discussed or weren't addressed at the trial, and it changed some people's opinions, but I don't remember enough of the documentary to have a solid grasp on it either way. But yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, I know
interesting.
he's incredibly influential in our culture, especially with music.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note, let's move on from Michael Jackson. And we'll talk about some of the other symbolism of duality that's used throughout this movie, starting with the rabbits.
Yay, rabbits.
Yes. So obviously the rabbits, they served a practical purpose in the film, which Red tells us. They were there for the tethered to eat. But they're so prevalent in the film that they had to mean more. So first, I want to read another quote that Jordan Peele said to an interview with The Guardian. He says, quote, "They're an animal of duality. They're adorable, but they terrify me at the same time. And they got those scissor-like ears that creep me out. Rabbits, they're supposed to be cute. On paper, they're adorable, lovable rabbits. Have you ever gotten close to a rabbit? You can tell in their eyes that they have a sociopath. If you put a rabbit brain in a human body, you have Michael Myers. They have no empathy." It's so funny.
Oh my God.
It is such a cute interview, too. It's like a little 10-second clip of him just freaking out about how creepy rabbits are. And it is so funny. I'll link it in our show notes. It's hilarious.
I'm definitely going to watch this.
Yeah. The whole reason rabbits are in this is because he has an irrational fear of rabbits.
Okay. So one time we were stationed in Texas, and Texas has jackrabbits. And they are the most terrifying. Fuck jackrabbits. That is the official Horror Sandbox stance on this. They're evil little shits. They would kill you given half a chance. They have mohawks for some reason and hatred in their eyes. I hate them. They're so creepy. And they were all over the base. So when I would like take my kids places, we had to watch out for them because you just knew that they were up to something.
You're so right. I also, the first time I went to Texas was for tech school in the Air Force. And my first experience seeing a jackrabbit, I was like, what the fuck is that?
It's not a rabbit. Rabbits are cute. Rabbits are bunny rabbits. That's the devil.
That must be the first rabbit that Jordan Peele saw. It had to have been a jackrabbit, because if that is the rabbit he is envisioning, I agree with him wholeheartedly that they're evil.
Yes. And this has got to be why there's so much rabbit imagery in some of the horror films that we've reviewed.
Has to be. The root cause is jackrabbits. I'm so happy we stumbled on this.
Sinister rabbits.
Oh, man. So the reason he uses rabbits, the reason he uses Michael Jackson is the duality. It's something that is supposed to be cute or lovable or happy, but scared him. And that is another reason why he also used scissors as a weapon. And another quote from him, he says, quote, "There's a duality to scissors, a whole made up of two parts, but also they lie in the territory between the mundane and the absolutely terrifying," end quote. He says there's a duality between them because they're just these mundane household items, but also they can be scary because, well, they can hurt you. I also think that outside the symbolism of the duality with the scissors, it can also be the fact that they're mirror images of each other, like each half of a scissor is the same. So that like kind of shadow or mirror thing.
The duality thing makes sense to me for one specific reason that's very dumb, and it's a pet peeve of mine, so I'm going to talk about it. I used to work in this secure government building, and they had rules about what you can and can't bring inside. Obviously, no weapons. But you couldn't bring any blade that was longer than, I don't know what it was, 2 or 3 inches. So not much knife. But you could have all the scissors you wanted. And every time I pointed this out, the security guard would just shrug. Like, yep.
Well, the other thing I think is so funny is with secure buildings and duality in general, like you go through all of these clearances and you get all these approvals to read some crazy stuff. But at the same time, there's some rules there that are no different than like a kindergarten reading room rule. And it's like, you're trusting me with government secrets, but like I can't do this simple thing, like have a small blade. Like, really?
But you could have scissors somehow.
Somehow, yes. Real quick, one more thing I want to talk about with the bunnies is that I do think they have a little bit of that Alice in Wonderland symbolism or idea behind it. And this could be intentional, or this could just be because I love everything Alice in Wonderland. But if you think about it, Addie did technically go down the rabbit hole when she was a young child, and she later emerged from underground. So we have that aspect of it. The other thing about rabbits, too, is that they're often used like as test subjects, and the tethered were also test subjects. So the rabbits are very much symbolic of the tethered themselves. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And then there's one more rabbit theory. And this is obviously, listeners, I love Reddit. I go to Reddit, and this isn't my theory. I'll link this Reddit post in our show notes. But there's a Redditor who has this really cool theory about the rabbits that I like. And I'm just going to read it verbatim. So he says, in the beginning, the rabbits were locked up in cages, symbolizing the loss of the free will and movement. When Adeline was switched, Red had more control of her body as she was from the surface. Since she had control, she was able to free the rabbits from their cages. Each rabbit is tied to a doppelganger, and once Red freed the rabbits from the cages, the doppelgangers were able to walk normally, be set free, which would explain why in the underground, all the rabbits were free roaming in the final scenes. In the final scenes, when they were in the ambulance, it can be seen that Jason is holding a rabbit, which is Adelaide's rabbit. So this Reddit user believes that the rabbits kind of controlled the tethered and they were tied to a rabbit, and the way that the tethered got free was to free the rabbits.
I do like the symbolism of the freed rabbits and all that stuff, but being directly connected when Red says that they had to eat raw rabbits, like what's happening there then?
Yeah, I don't know, because then there's no way they were tied to one singular rabbit, because then every time you eat that rabbit, like what's happening? That doesn't make any sense, but maybe they're tied more specifically to a cage. I'm not sure, but who knows?
I don't know. There's a lot of places you could go with this.
Yeah, there are, and I think it's fun. I think some of it's purposely left open for interpretation, except for the fact that Jordan Peele thinks rabbits are terrifying. To segue into our next bit of duality, do you remember when in one of the opening scenes, we see a bunch of rabbits in cages? Do you remember, or did you count how many cages there were?
I did not.
Okay, so it's 11. So let's talk about the number 11. It's obviously rampant throughout this movie. It's the t-shirt number that Addie picks out in the beginning of the movie. It's the time on the clock. It's the score of the baseball game that Gabe's watching at night. And then there's Jeremiah 11:11. First, let's talk about Jeremiah 11:11. So what is it? It's a Bible verse, and in this Bible verse, it says, quote, "Therefore, this is what the Lord says. I will bring on them a disaster they cannot escape. Although they cry out for me, I will not listen to them."
That's the Old Testament God I remember.
Exactly. So, for a little bit more context, this chapter recalls the agreement between God and the people of Israel during their exodus from Egypt. And they made a pact that they would be obedient to the word of God, but they didn't obey him. Somehow they broke that covenant. So a quote from that story is, quote, "Yet they obeyed not, nor inclined their ear, but walked every one in the imagination of their evil heart." So I think the key takeaway from this Bible verse in relation to this movie is that it's predicting the uprising of the tethered and the brutality with which they're going to take their revenge on their other halves, because that is our Old Testament God. He lets people scream and he follows through with his plan anyway. Besides that, the significance of the number of 11 is significant in the same way that a mirror is. So it's two numbers, they're reflections of themselves, just like the tethered are reflections of the people who walk in the world. We also see that weird reflection idea happening in the strange coincidences throughout the movie, like that red frisbee landing perfectly on the blue square on the towel during the beach scene. And like we talked about, the scissors and the mirror image of the scissors. So there's that quote that's really just about the brutality of the way that this uprising is going to happen. And then the 11:11 is just like a mirror image. It's a number that's a mirror image of itself.
Yeah, using that as like a revenge threat makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. Okay, so there's two more things I want to talk about. The first is the Hopi creation story and spiders that we have mentioned a lot in the plot summary. So I briefly mentioned that when Addie enters the Vision Quest game thing, she hears the Hopi creation story. And this is specifically what is said inside of there. Quote, "These, the earth and water, he divided into places from which life could spring. The mountains and the valleys and the waters were all where they belonged. Then Sarukning went to Tawa and said, 'I want you to see what I have done, and I have done well.' And Tawa looked and said, 'It is very good, but you are not done with it. Now you must create life of all kinds and set its motion according to my plan.'" And then there's the owl like pops out here in the fun room, and so it kind of cuts off for a second, and then it cuts back in, and it says, And I went into space and gathered substance to create his helper, the Spider-Woman. Look about you, Spider-Woman. Here now is endless space, but in the world, there is no joyful moment. The world, and then it cuts out. So let's talk about what this means, what this is. So like I said, this is a Hopi creation story. Tawa is the creator of the world who formed the first world out of something that they called endless space. So kind of the same as the standard Christian creation story. There's a God who created something out of nothing, and he also created its inhabitants. He first created Sarutnang, whom he called his nephew, and sent him to create something that they called the 9 universes according to his plan. His nephew also created Spider-Woman, who served as a messenger for the creator between the deities and the people. So you would think that the Spider-Woman or the Spider-Grandmother in this story is evil, but actually she's really wise and helpful, and she's known as a guide who helps humans survive and taught them how to live with purpose. I think there's one myth in particular in the Hopi tradition that applies to this movie the most. So the nephew and Tawa send the Spider-Woman down to what I'm just going to refer to as Earth to teach the people there how to live, because Tawa was unhappy with the way that they were living. So the Spider-Grandmother goes down to the world, and she serves as like the creator of humans because she changes these things that weren't living correctly into what we know as humans today. And she teaches them how to do things like weave and make clay pots. And while they're in this world, the people begin to turn away from the god Tawa. And because of this, the Spider-Grandmother is sent to take the few ones who are still good and lead them out from the underground and save them to start a world of good. So in this situation, I think Peel is using the Spider-Grandmother to symbolize red. So she was sent down to rescue the tethered, who were these soulless, not quite human things, and teach them how to be human and bring them back up. So that is why the Hopi myth is in this.
That's interesting too, because it's almost like the flood story, where
it's exactly like the flood story.
A deity decides, most of you are bad, I'm going to start over, and wipes everybody out.
Because most of these traditions were orally like carried on and not written down, there's a ton of versions of them. One is that she leads them up from the other ground. Another is that she picks a couple and puts them on canoes and saves them from a flood. So it's literally the same story as like Noah, basically. So it is interesting, the parallels between them. But yeah, so I think the whole reason that creation story is put in there, and the whole reason that the Spider-Woman is used, is that the spider is red. And there's still that duality though, right? Of, is red good or is she bad? Is she saving these people or is she evil for killing? Or is Addie really the bad one because she locked an innocent child down in the shadow world when they could have lived together? It's the whole spider duality thing. It goes really deep, and there's a lot of questions behind it that I don't think there's any clear answers to. But that's what the spider symbolism is throughout the movie.
That's really cool. I've never heard that particular creation story. That's pretty neat.
Me neither. I spent a lot of time reading about it, but there's a lot to it, and I'll link some of the articles I read in the show notes, so if people are interested, they can go read more. But okay. The last thing I want to talk about is the music, because I think the music is really fun in this movie. So for the movie Us, Peele asked the composer Michael Abels, who also is a composer who did the movie Get Out, to experiment with duality in the music. So he actually suggested to Michael Abels to try instruments that don't go together. So like just surprising duets and using like unique instruments like a didgeridoo, which I love that name for an instrument, and some other things in contrast to like the more traditional instruments like a violin.
Oh, so I was right when I said this music is really unsettling. It sounds both tribal and modern at the same time. Like that was exactly what he was going for.
Yes, it is exactly what he was going for. And I'll talk about it a little bit more when I talk about the weird chanting song that we mentioned earlier.
Well, I'm excited for this because it's the only thing I've gotten right about this entire movie so far.
Well, you're spot on for this. So that song is called Anthem, and he created it just for this movie. He says, this is a quote from Abels himself, quote, "I wanted Anthem to sound like an evil march, like you knew that someone with bad intentions was coming. One thing that Jordan loves to do and is becoming known for is to take something you can always assume was safe or innocent and turn it into something else. The children's voices is one example. Jordan wanted to start with them because he thought it would be super scary. The reason the lyrics are nonsense has everything to do with us, which is we want to communicate the message that there's a group of people who are are organizing, but we don't want the audience to understand their purpose. We want the audience to find that out later, along with the lead characters. The best lyrics of any song you love aren't the obvious ones. They're the poetic ones open to interpretation. You're forced to listen with your emotions and your instincts rather than your intellect.
Love this. I love this so much.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it's so funny. I was reading about how he created the song and how he made noises that weren't words. And he was like, yeah, I just started with long consonant and vowel sounds. But he was like, almost everything's a word in some language. So anything that sounded even kind of like a word, he had to like Google it and change it accordingly. So it took him a very long time to create a language that was not a language for this song.
God, that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And the other thing he said about Anthem in particular is that, yes, it has that march kind of sound to it, which is very like American Civil War march army kind of feel to it. But he didn't want this movie to be just about America because it's not. It's about the bigger us that we talked about earlier. So that's why he brought in different things that sound tribal or just otherworldly, just to kind of keep you guessing and keep you on your toes so you can interpret us as whatever you want it to be, not just America. Let's talk about the song I Got 5 on It. So first, let's talk about just that song. So when that song's first played, the composer says that he chose it just because it's a great way to understand the family and who they are as a unit and how they relate to each other. But then he said he started to mess with that song and he didn't realize until later that it's actually perfect for that duality theme. And the reason is because if you sample that song, there's a version of it where the bass line is like a melody in itself. So it's really got two melodies, a really low one and a high one. So when it was time for him to make the score for that dance fight scene at the end, he wanted to kind of use that duality in that song to do a call and response thing. So he pulled out the duality of that song and kind of combined it into more of like a ballet dance kind of duality piece. And I think it's really creepy and I think it's really, really well done. I love the way that song hits at the end.
Yeah, because you've got like the really deep kind of classical music. I think it's a cello at one point, like ba bum bum ba bum bum bum, and then the kind of higher pitch of the I've got 5 on it. I'm not going to subject you guys to my singing, but you get it.
Yes, I think you did an amazing job, actually. It makes me want to go listen to it.
But it is good. And it absolutely works in that scene with the ballet where they're like it's a duel and the melodies are kind of dueling with one another. And I like that. I really like that scene.
Yes, I like it too. Yeah, so he used that duality of the music to pin it against each other and make it a battle and a dance all together. And it's just really cool. I really like it. So that's it. That's everything I had to say about the symbolism. There's way more. I did a lot of research and I could have went down a couple more holes, but these were the coolest ones I could find.
You don't want to go down too many scary rabbit holes because there might be a jackrabbit at the bottom.
Yes, I don't want to be stuck in a tunnel with jackrabbits. Ugh.
That's it. That's it, Charlie. If we made a horror movie about our nightmares, it would be jackrabbits.
I was going to say, what's worse, a ketchup and balloon-filled airplane or a jackrabbit tunnel? I don't know. But okay. So now that we're done with all of that, let's see what we unearthed. What kind of movie is this? Is it horror? Is it tragedy? Is it funny? What do you think it is?
It's definitely horror. There's a lot of really terrifying scenes in this. The overall story is scary. And like we've talked about throughout this, it's horror that I didn't quite understand the first time when it first came out. And sometimes I like that about horror where you're not quite sure what just happened, but you know you're scared. And I definitely feel like I understand it now a little bit better. I don't feel like I completely understand it, and I'm still okay with that. Because I think horror does not need to be completely understandable in order to be appreciated.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, heck, if we understood it completely, it probably wouldn't be scary, right? And I agree. There's still a lot of things in this movie that there's questions out there that to this day are debated on, Reddit and other forums, and people interpret it differently and think it means different things. It's funny because I think some of my favorite horror movies of all time are the ones that when the movie ends, you just sit there and go, what the heck did I just watch?
Yes, I love that feeling.
Yes, so that's why this is one of my favorites. And it has some of the creepiest scenes in any horror movie I've ever seen, but it also has some of the funniest. And so for this one is like the first true movie that I can classify as a true horror comedy. Like, and not even like a dark comedy, but like as a horror and a funny movie. And I love it so much. It makes me laugh so much. There's something wholesome about it. There's something endearing, but also it gets under your skin. It's creepy. It hangs with you. And it's just so well done. Talk about duality. How do you make horror and comedy come together into such a masterpiece? I love it so much.
And I think Jordan Peele is very good at this. I love his movies. This one I didn't like as much. I think I'm changing my mind a little bit, but I definitely liked two of his others more than this one when I first watched them. So I loved Get Out and I loved Nope. And he does that comedy horror element throughout. And he's incredibly talented.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Get Out is an incredible movie. It's funny, this one is my favorite of the three. I love this one so much. And I've noticed that people who like us tend to, like, they really love it, but people who really love Get Out and Nope just don't, like, appreciate us as much. And so I think it's fun to see us fall on those two sides of it.
It is. And I think if that's true for a lot of our listeners, maybe, listening to us dissect it a little bit is helping some appreciate it more, because I definitely have more of appreciation now that we've kind of dove into this.
Yeah, for sure. I hope people liked it and like the depth to it. Hopefully I could bring the haters out and make them not haters. Okay, so that does it for us today, listeners. May the horrors persist.
And fuck jackrabbits. Thanks for listening to Horror Sandbox. No generative AI was used in the making of this podcast. For show notes, credits, and contact info, check out our website, horrorsandbox.com. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Horror Sandbox. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/horrorsandbox. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with all the horror fans in your life.